Hey, Coordination, how's it going? This week we have Borda, who is a contributor to GitcoinDAO, 50 Years Capital, 2+ DreamDAO, and she is a KERNEL alumni. Allie's kind of a wonderkind. She exudes regen. She actually recorded this episode from Costa Rica. And a lot of the work that she's been doing has been about positive impact on the world. She's at the intersection of a lot of different impact DAOs, impact networks. And this episode, we talk about impact DAOs, which are any DAO that has a positive externality, positive force on the world. I'm a big believer that the nonprofit sector in the world is stagnant. We've got United Way, which is 134 years old, Feeding America, 42 years old, Salvation Army, 155 years old. The nonprofit and NGO sector, I think, can be disrupted by DAOs because blockchains allow for more transparency, more community governance, and they make supporting your community into a multiplayer game the way it always should have been. In a network world, I think that impact DAOs could win. And in this episode, we talk about a book that Allie and I wrote called Impact DAOs. Impact DAOs are any project that can have a positive impact on the world. And as soon as I wrote GreenPilled, which was the theory about how crypto could be good for the world, I started getting challenged about, okay, well, is it actually happening, Kevin? Are there actually projects that are doing good for the world? And the answer is yes. We've written a book. 106 different impact DAOs out there are doing good for the world. And Allie was my co-conspirator in creation of that book. So in this podcast episode, we talk about the book. We talk about the impact DAO ecosystem, how it could grow, how to get involved. Coordination. If you want to be involved in impact DAOs, if you want to be creating positive externalities for the world and earning tokens at the same time, this episode is for you. Very tactical guide for getting involved. Without further ado, I give you Ali Borda.
If you're trying to grow and preserve your crypto wealth, optimizing your taxes is just as lucrative as trying to find the next hidden gem. ALTO IRA can help you invest in crypto in tax advantage ways to help you preserve your hard-earned money. ALTO Crypto IRA lets you invest in more than 150 coins and tokens with all the same tax advantages of an IRA. They make it easy to fund your alternative IRA or crypto IRA via your 401k or by contributing directly from your bank account. There is no setup or account fees, and it's all you need to do to invest in crypto tax-free. Let me repeat that again. You can invest in crypto tax-free. Diversify like the pros and trade without tax headaches. Open an ALTO Crypto IRA to invest in crypto tax-free. Just go to altoira.com/bankless. That's ALTOIRA.com/bankless and start investing in crypto today. OPOLIS is a member-owned digital employment cooperative offering payroll, health insurance, and membership perks that go beyond the basics that you would find at your normal 9-to-5. OPOLIS offers not only health benefits, but also pay stubs and W-2s, workers' comp, and unemployment insurance, as well as disability benefits for independent DAO workers that are traditionally reserved for regular employment situations. OPOLIS provides a tax-compliant way to get your paycheck in crypto and professionalize your work-life situation. OPOLIS members enjoy an average of 20 to 50% savings on top-rated national group health insurances, as well as self-sovereign portable employment. You can also get tokenized rewards based on consumption, staking, and referrals, and also the ability to fund payroll in fiat and stablecoins without the use of centralized exchange. You can also receive paychecks in fiat and whitelisted digital currencies. So sign up for OPOLIS today and get 1,000 work and 1,000 bank tokens when you become a member of OPOLIS by May 25th, 2022, and get started working your self-sovereign life.
Allie, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Good to be recording this episode with you. So we wanted to talk about the Impact DAO book that you and I wrote together this episode. Can you tell me what is an Impact DAO?
Yeah, impact DAOs are mainly just any DAO that's creating positive externalities to the world, and any DAO that's actually leveraging Web3, the tooling mechanisms, but also just like the mental models and shifts in mindsets to create positive impact. So leveraging that for good.
Got it. So when you say positive impact, are you talking about like financial impact, or are there other types of impact that an impact DAO can have also?
No. I think like any layer of impact. Like, for example, for me, it's never been much about financial impact. It's more about like, well, yes, economic development, but also like into regeneration, like individual growth, experiential, spiritual, natural impact. So anything that is like more holistic and touching every point of area of life, and like how we operate as a society and how we operate as different cultures together as well.
Got it. What got you into this work? Like, how did you get green pilled? What got you into public goods?
Well, honestly, that was my starting point. So previously, I'm from Peru, so I've always been like around a lot of both poverty, but also around a lot of nature. So my work has always been around like positive impact, public goods. First, like volunteering, making houses, staircases in the slums. Then, like more of an educational nonprofit. I lead it both, and then it has always been like more of journey of like, oh, where can I achieve more impact in the world or achieve with others around me more change towards those communities that I see in Peru. And that's what led me more to like the US, searching for that like entrepreneurial, more like, yeah, entrepreneurial and just faster, quicker, more technological advances to achieve change. And that's where I started also working at 50 years, like helping founders solving world's problems with technology and like learning from that aspect, because I was kind of like, oh, nonprofits that I used to lead are very good and like have a lot of good meaning people, but sometimes are not as effective and slower. So I wanted to see the other side of things. And then through 50 years, I kind of discovered Web3, and I really didn't dive into it at first because I was only hearing like all my friends and other people around me like saying like, oh, the metaverse, gaming, stuff like that. I don't even watch Netflix, so I was like, oh, why would I get into this? And then I somehow stumbled upon like these concepts of like, oh, how can we embed our values into our economic systems, or how do we actually create, instead of like creating products or services, we're actually re-engineering like coordination designs, or like the railroads that will lead us to create positive actions just naturally. So I was like super excited about that, because we could kind of like re-engineer how we coordinate as humans and just like value what is important to us as like in the planet and also as human beings.
Right. What I think is so cool about your story is that, as a young person looking to have positive impact, you kind of saw that there was this old world of charities that you could go into, and then there was like Web3 impact, and you chose to move a little bit more towards the Web3 side of things. Like, was there like an instinct there, or was there something that you discovered that pushed you in that direction?
Yes, it was as soon as I read, I think it was a paper by Seeds saying how our economy is usually backed by extractive methods and by oil, gas, and all those industries, and how we could actually use digital currencies to engineer digital economies that are actually backed by nature. And like as the ecology grows, the economy grows, and those concepts actually were so interesting to me and to discover. And also the second leap into discovering even more Web3 was actually the people. So I've always been very much into not only impact like business entrepreneurship, but also a lot into health, philosophy, psychology, like fasting, different technologies that are also like technologies, but in a different way, like how we eat, how we behave, the sports we do, and different things. And I've always kind of like kept separated both sides of me. And now as I go into Web3, like it's kind of like a mesh of arts, culture, like the philosophy, system thinkers, and a lot of people who are actually thinking deeply in systems, like not only just like solving the most obvious symptoms, but are rather trying to find out like the underlying issues that are causing everything, like all the problems in the first place. And I think that that excited me like very much, because I could kind of like bring my whole self to the table and like build solutions that incorporate every curiosity I have, and do so with people who also have like from very different experiences, backgrounds, and curiosity that also bring all aspects of human life into the table. So that green pilled me like twice.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of nice to hear the background of what you've been up to, and I think that like the way our paths meet is that in January, when I was writing this green pill book about how crypto could regenerate the world, we started to talk about how impact DAOs were the atomic building block of this movement. So you have an impact DAO that creates a positive externality for the world, and around that time I kept getting challenged, like, okay, Kevin, this is all nice in theory, but are any projects actually doing this? Are there any projects that are actually truly having impact these days? And I think that was around the time that you and I met. I think around like ETH Denver, and I was like, man, I kind of like feel like we should do impact DAO cartography. Like we should figure out what's out there and like create a database of impact DAOs so that I can have an exhaustive resource to answer that question of, okay, is green pilling actually happening? Are we actually creating creating positive impact for the world in this space? And so that's how you and I got connected, and we put together an ImpactDAO book and a Notion database that is a registry of different impact DAOs. So can you tell me about that? How many impact DAOs are in the registry, and tell me about the book.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny because like at the time I was like, I had no idea. I had never met you, right? So it was very much of oh, like I started building this list of projects back in December, like with 50 years. We were trying to see, do we want to get involved with Web3 or not? Like, is like what are the projects that are actually making something meaningful? Because like 50 years as a background is mostly just like investing in supporting founders, like solving world problems, like with good impact. So it was, oh, what are the projects out there that are actually achieving positive impact? And I was mapping them like for that purpose kind of thing to like mentally understand like how is crypto or Web3 being used in different ways. And it was so funny that you actually made like the call for the cartographers, and I had my Notion with like 100 projects and the descriptions and impact. I was like, oh, like I have all this information, I have all this data. And I was already a huge fan of Gitcoin. Like it was kind of like one of the main organizations that GreenPilled me with the grants, and seeing how people were actually excited about like donating to projects and rallying the community to support party goods. For me that was super inspiring, because it was not a, oh, I'll give away some of my money as donations. It was kind of like a rally and like being very supportive and co-creating with each other whenever people participate in the grants. So it was kind of like a perfect mashup of like me already having the projects, and then like the Gitcoin spirit and community being kind of like an inspiration and something I looked up to. So yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, on the ImpactDAO book and the different projects that are out there. I kind of like we kind of see them as, so when I paint the picture of the space, it's easier for me to paint it in different kind of like diagrams or different pictures. And if I know we're in a podcast, so we don't have actually any diagram, but how I look at it is kind of like as a tree. So if you think about it, like in the tree, you have the roots. So you have the impact DAOs that are actually building the infrastructure layer that are allowing other impact DAOs to build on top of. So that's like the layer ones, and even like some tokenomic models or some like IPNFTs that people can use in decentralized science, different things that people can use on top. Then you have the trunk of the tree on top of the roots, and those are the ones doing research and then applying that to actual use cases. So you would think about, for example, protocol labs that's doing research right now in different ways which we can fund public goods, like interoperable ways such as like retroactive funding or like the grants or impact certificates in different ways, and then implementing that on different projects. And then you have like of course the whole entire tree with all the different areas of impact DAOs that, like, of course many of them tend to very different areas of life, and like a lot of them, like for example Gitcoin tends to financial but also social and experiential. But like I try to map them on like the primary area that they focus on, such as regenerative finance, decentralized science, um, regen communities that are this kind of like eco villages, and restructuring how we operate as little societies with their own economies and their own tokens. And then finally, the last one will be commons pools. So I refer to commons pools as any new way of like funding and rewarding public goods and different projects. I'm happy to go more on how like if they're within the tree, it's because like all of them are kind of like interoperable, symbiotic, and work with each other. So they're part of the same tree. although they serve different purposes and they tend to different areas of social capital.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that, there's a lot to dive in on there. I guess like the TLDR is that you and I have launched a book called the ImpactDAO Registry, and it's just the April 2022 edition. I think there's 100 and something ImpactDAOs that we discovered and cartographied in there, and you can get it at store.gitcoin.co. Check the show notes if you want to pick up a copy of the book, and it's worth it to see the visual of that tree that you mentioned right there, with the trunk being the tooling and the infrastructure, and then sort of the leaves being all of the different projects that are impact DAOs in the space. And I, what gets really interesting to me about this impact DAO space is, like you said, the fact that everything in this space, the impact DAO space, by definition, is creating positive externalities, means that it's creating this ecosystem. It's not like a machine where you have all these parts that are just sort of like transactionally interoperating with each other. You actually have this infinite garden
Mhm.
of this rich fauna and plants that are all growing on top of each other and nourishing a common ecosystem through which the sum is greater than each of its parts. And I think that that's what's really cool about impact DAOs, is how they stack. And I think of like Gitcoin, which I'm the founder of, and I work on Gitcoin, works with quadratic funding, which is a way of democratically distributing funds to the Ethereum community. That's a positive externality that Gitcoin has. And we rely on Proof of Humanity,
Mhm.
another impact DAO, for Sybil resistance for quadratic funding. And so Gitcoin derives Sybil resistance from Proof of Humanity, and Proof of Humanity actually raised money on Gitcoin. So there's this sort of like symbiosis that happens in that one-to-one relationship, but also the one to many, the many to many in this ecosystem. And so if we can nurture this ecosystem of impact DAOs, then I think it becomes really cool to think about what we're building towards is this sort of diverse fauna of different ways of creating pluralistic support for human communities and shared needs. So I'm really excited about how Impact DAO Stack is I guess where I was going with that. But yeah, I mean, what else do you want to say about the Impact DAO book? What's the highest order bit for you?
Yeah, I think there's two areas I'm most excited about with the book. Happy to dive like in order. Actually, there's three, right? There's the first that I talk about, more the theoretical, like shift in mental models, mental frameworks, and how we view impact, which I think is the one that actually fires me up the most. And then the second one will be this impact DAO stacks, which is both cool. I offer a perspective of like how I think six different impact DAOs, including Gitcoin, Proof of Humanity, Collectivo, Astral, and radical drapes can like operate with each other. And then there's the final aspect of the book would be the different case studies and just trying to merge both the how do these impact DAOs operate, like their strategy, their mechanisms, how they're using Web3, but also grounding that into how they're impacting like human lives, so that actually almost any kind of reader can understand it. They don't have to be like super into Web3 to be able to get a sense of that. So like I'm trying to achieve a good balance there between the human aspect and also the technical aspect. So happy to dive in either of the three.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that it might be good to just talk about a couple of the impact DAOs in the book, just to ground the listener in what an impact DAO actually looks like in practice. So, do you mind if we get like real tangible, and then we can escape into the theoretical from there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to go first and tell us about a couple impact DAOs you're excited about and what they do?
Yeah, I think the well, first, like how we chose impact DAOs, just for people to get a sense of that. It's mainly just like a few points. There would be that there have been proven to have a strategy that's like sustainable in the long term, or at least until now, like a very sound strategy on achieving impact in the world. And they don't only have positive externalities on their individual outcomes, but they're also enabling better outcomes for those around them. So like in this impact DAO stacks. And finally, there we try to include other ones that have like like there are tackling leverage points in the system where like one small change has like rippling effects on the rest of the system. So like for example, I can think of like it is not a completely set as a DAO, but one example that I really love is like the Celo ecosystem, because they're like building for like inclusion first. So what they're doing is like their mobile they're a layer one like proof of stake, but in general, like anyone with a cell phone can actually access different ways to transact money with like Valora app and different applications within Celo. And what this enables is that people around the world, like in the Philippines, in Kenya, in Peru, in everywhere around the world, can actually reach these ways to transact money, and like we can actually funnel funds there without almost no extra fees and without like any delay on the operations. But what's most exciting within the Celo ecosystem is that they're doing a lot of different projects around. For example, impact markets are giving daily UBI to a lot of different people. They're also like have a project called the Climate Collective that is trying to back 40% of Celo's reserve currency with natural capital assets. So like it serves as a carbon sink where most of like 40% of the Celo reserve will be based on on like actual trees. So like this means that if they're enabling tooling for the unbanked to actually have ways to transact money, the more people who are unbanked that now are transacting Celo dollars, Celo euros, or like other tokens within the Celo network, then there's more there's more flow of money, and there's more ability to actually support planting of trees. So as the ecology grows, the economy grows, and I really really like that concept of like redesigning our currencies. And I think another layer of that will be that they're enabling other projects. For example, Colectivo, which is part of like the same network of the DAOists who are and Prime DAO. Colectivo is kind of like an experiment in Curacao where they're integrating their own digital currency. They're first establishing like how do they want to see their economy grow, like such as with regenerative projects or other community initiatives, and they're like launching their Kuradai on top of the Celo network, and this allows people to transact value with their cell phones and actually build like a whole community from the ground up with their own digital currency. And one of their use cases, for example, is using yet another Impact DAO, Astra Protocol, to actually Astra Protocol as a background is just kind of like geospatial referencing data, which just means like a lot of like details and like more grounded experiments. But in general, they have this sense of like a satellite image that can actually trigger behavior on the smart contract if there is kind of like positive transformation of the ecological state of a place. So, for example, there's farmers, they can get instantly rewarded by their good actions if the Oracle, which is Astral Protocol, kind of like sees or triggers the reward after a positive ecological outcome. So that was a lot, but it's like kind of like how Celo, Colectivo, and Astral are kind of cooperating to allow communities grounded in this ecological growth.
When you shop for plane tickets, you probably use Kayak, Expedia, or Google to compare ticket prices. So why would you limit yourself to just one exchange when you trade crypto? When you make your trades, you want to make sure you're getting the best possible price on your trade, and that's why you should be using MATCHA. MATCHA has smart order routing that splits your trade across all the various liquidity sources in Ethereum, and is also operational on Polygon, Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, and other chains. Trading on MATCHA is super easy because it pools the liquidity for me in a single, easy-to-use platform and allows me to make limit on-chain orders, so you can set and forget your DeFi trades, and they will go through automatically while you're away. So when you're making a trade, head over to matcha.xyz/bankless and connect your wallet to start getting the best prices and most liquidity when you trade your crypto assets.
So, you've got some money, but how are you gonna use it? You want to spend.
You, me, shopping, now, bro.
When you know you should be saving.
You'll never buy a house at this rate.
But what if you could spend and save at the same time? For the enlightened kind, with inquiring minds, a new world awaits. Set yourself free with completely flexible, self-repaying loan technology. Supported on desktop and mobile, seize the power of ALCHEMIX, allowing you to spend and save at the same time. Leverage your wealth without risk of liquidation. Take out a loan that repays itself. By using yield from your deposit to pay off your balance, your only debt is time. What was once inconceivable is now within your grasp.
Are you winning, son?
And I just think it's so cool that each of these impact DAOs, for a lot of their impact, it's verifiable on chain. You can go look and peer into these digital organisms through their governance structure, see what they're focused on, see how they're funded, and contribute to them. So, as opposed to like NGOs or charities in the old world where they might not have that base layer of transparency, all of these impact DAOs are accessible just from a web browser from anywhere that you go and are digitally native impact organizations. So that's one of the things that I think is just so neat about this budding ecosystem of impact DAOs is how accessible they are to people who want to have impact and in some cases get tokens for creating that impact.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
really exciting.
And I think also, like, we've been talking a lot about nature and those digital currencies, but the same thing happens in science, like with Molecule and ByteDAO, for example, with their model of IP NFTs. They're actually redefining the incentives for science and enabling collaboration across scientists with their patients, and also enabling better, yeah, just like more accessible data from anywhere for this like IP. So it's streaming away from like these pharmaceutical monopoly type of things into more of a collaborative ecosystem of biotech DAOs. So you can see that across like many different aspects or industries.
Amazing. All right. So now that we've covered some of your favorite impact DAOs, would love to get a little bit back into the theoretical. So, what else do you want to say about the impact DAO ecosystem or the impact DAO book that you can get at store.gitcoin.co?
Yeah, I would say that there's two aspects of it that I'm really excited about. One is the first, just like Web3 is just a tool within the broader shift in mindset away from like these old structures of like sacrifice or lack or control, or like these structures that are like, oh, we need to work for these big industries, or we need to extract value from the world to actually like thrive our economy. And I think like what is most exciting about this is you can actually go away from all these mental models and build kind of from scratch, or choose to take like whatever we want to take from the old systems into the new. So like with impact DAOs and with Web3, they're actually like triggered kind of like a realization that now we have the ability and the agency to design these new economic systems to redefine what we value, how we value, what we reward, even like things like coordinate, for example. It allows us to reward people at a more human level and with the, for holistically for their human contributions to the DAO or the projects. So it like kind of like give us this, yeah, this realization that we did not have before, in which we actually can build these systems in a way that is perfect for human thriving, for nature thriving, and for our connections with ourselves, with others, and with nature. And like the DAO space is kind of like a blank slate to actually, like, if we have the ability to redesign organizations, why don't we design them with humans at its core, with nature at its core, and like just like, yeah, set them like the systems, the structures, even the rhythms of the DAOs. Like maybe we allow for people to take a break in between different seasons to reassess what they want to contribute in, how they want to contribute in. And with all this opportunity in Web3, where you can actually contribute almost anywhere, it kind of like it's kind of like a stopping. So like it forces you to stop and really think about like, okay, where do I want to give my energy? Well, where will my energy be the most useful for impact, and things like that. So it's away from, yeah, away from just like following a certain path into like being more intentional with the work. And one final thing that I mentioned of impact DAOs as well is that it's no longer about one winning strategy, or like I'm gonna be the one doing the most impact, or even like trying to convince donors. It is more about like this mesh of networks in which we all bring more value to the ecosystem as a whole than working individually. And in the sense of like achieving great change, like there's huge problems in the world right now, right? So we all want to change the world, and there's also this sense, for example, for me, like, oh, I need to contribute to like 15 different projects because like we need to solve like this 100 problems in the world and stuff like that. But then again, it's like no, because like each one of us like is doing their own work and the thing they are best at. So each one is like, think about it, like each person is following their own path and their own trail in the area where they think it's the best one. So either if it's nature, if it's science, if it's economics, if it's organizational design, people things. So everyone is going in divergent paths. But the cool thing about these networks is in things like sharing, like conferences like Sharing Point or things like DAO Camp that I just went to, or different like Twitter spaces, Discords, we always converge back and like share our learning, share our strategies, increase the feedback loops between each other, and just like share at a human layer, like as humans, just like create relationships. So we're always in this divergent and convergent path of achieving different missions, but all towards kind of like this better futures outcome.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful vision. So, say I'm an anon out there, and I want to get involved in impact DAOs. Maybe I want to create an impact. Maybe I want to earn some tokens. Maybe I want to brush up on my skills. Maybe I want to get networked. How can I get involved in the impact DAO ecosystem?
Well, we do have a group in a Telegram chat called Impact Cartographers that spun out of just like people being interested in measuring impact, in improving our strategies towards that. So that's like one aspect. You can jump in there and like ask or just introduce yourself. There's other groups called REPAYING as well, where it's mostly just like the regenerative projects. But in general, I would say I would advise you to just get the book because there's like 100 projects there. Feels like just notice what you are most excited about contributing to, and honestly just either reach out to the project itself. Anyone is very very welcoming in Twitter, in Discord, etc., or to one of these Telegram chats that is more of a sharing point. And if not, you can also always jump to Gitcoin and discover grants there on the impact DAO side of things. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of opportunities, and well, even if you need to just like message us, like message me on Twitter. I live Borda 21 and help you out find your way. There's many opportunities there.
Nice. Let's see. I think we only have about 10 minutes left. I would love to discuss how you see the impact DAO ecosystem evolving. I know that we just kind of, you and I met at ETH Denver, and then I was like, hey, let's write this impact DAO book and release it by ETH Amsterdam. So it was like this whirlwind of like 2 months of doing cartography and putting it together in a book. But where do we go from here? I know that you're starting to host calls with the impact DAO cartographers. What else can we sort of expect from the impact DAO ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say like Kevin's trust on me on writing a book together after meeting each other like one day, that was huge. That was very funny. But I would say the some of the ideas burning up from the Impact DAO cartography group are, well, in general, like first of all, better ways to just like collaborate with each other, share learnings, share what works, what doesn't, share like Impact DAO primitives. Like even in the book, we share like a few primitives or like Web3 strategies that are useful that other people can fork and implement in their projects, so that we stop making the same mistakes and just start like moving forward and have increased feedback loops. I'm very excited about projects as well, such as like Prime DAO that has like this like shared venture. So like if two projects are or three projects or 10 have like the same problem and the same like block on the road, they can actually fund like a shared research or product or venture to actually unlock that. So projects like that, like redefining like how do we collaborate more as an ecosystem and grow together. So there's that. Also, we're working on like different ways to like prove impact or to create impact certificates to reward and to finance more impact projects. And we want to create this in a way as well that is not as, oh, I'm judging your impact or I'm trying to see if you're doing well or not. It's just more from a way of like, how do we make sure that the funding, resources, and energy and talent are going towards the solutions that are creating the most impact and the most positive change, so we can continue to iterate on that. So it's more of a feedback loop on improving our strategy. It is not about like measuring and just like backlashing or whatnot. And then other types of things, I'm really excited about actually the work that's being done in the impact cartographer group, but also more broadly within Gitcoin as their grants 2.0 start coming up, or protocol labs with their public networked funding, in which we discover different ways in which we can actually fund and reward public goods that are interoperable and also tend to different like different types of projects and different areas the project, like different stages the project is in, so we can continue to create and fund these public goods and to make sure that people that are working on them are fully rewarded for their work. So yeah, that's are some of the strategies. Also always engaging in these broader theoretical mental models of like how do we incorporate that shift in mindsets into this whole entire work. But TLDR will be impact certificates, proof of impact, better ways to share learnings and coordinate, and better ways to funnel talent to these impact DAOs. And in general, just how do we help grow the ecosystem in a more collaborative way.
Yeah, totally. It's so rewarding to work on this impact DAO space because when we articulate to the space how DAOs are actually having a positive impact on the world, that creates more legitimacy for those DAOs. It creates more legitimacy for the space. It's not just decentralized casinos anymore. We'll actually have proven examples of creating systems that solve for everyday human problems. And I think that there's sort of a loop there where it's theory and then action and then learning into more theory. And the more that we can spin that virtuous cycle as a flywheel, as an ecosystem together, the more we can shift the market cycles of crypto into things that are actually helping people. And so I think that that's sort of the end game of the work with the ImpactDAO book that we've been doing together. And you and I will just be hanging out kind of holding space for the people who are working on this space, creating social shelling points. Maybe we'll do a second iteration of the book, like maybe once a year we update the registry and talk about how the ImpactDAO space has changed year over year. But it takes a village. It takes all of us to build this ecosystem. So it's really I think the highest purpose, the highest use of my time to be working on this, but it's also a lot of fun. I've met so many great people that are working on impact DAOs. Like there's just like a mimetic filter where if you're working on an impact DAO, then your vibes are good. And that's one of the most rewarding things for me of getting networked in the impact DAO space.
Yeah, absolutely. Since we launched like the book, I've connected with so many amazing projects that weren't in the book just because they're brand new and they're just coming up and they're like awesome and amazing. And also, I think for me in general, Web3, for me, Web3 is just like the tool and mechanism that will lead us to solve like what some of the world's biggest problems, and impact DAOs like shaping the way forward for Web3 to just like almost completely in that sense. Like we're starting with like of course this holding the space for this small but growing ecosystem, but if we can see like most of like Web3 tooling and resources energy being funneled to this space, I think that will be hugely exciting and yeah, with the amazing change.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like, one of the coolest things that I think that we could potentially create, like the ultimate North Star for me is kind of like, what if we could create a world in which impact DAOs augment every income on the planet? So basically, you've got a systemic incentive to work on the commons for everyday agents in the system, whether those are humans or AIs or DAOs, to work on the commons to fund and build our shared needs. And I think that Web3 as the ultimate coordination mechanism for humanity has the ability, it's like the substrate through which we could get impact DAOs into every corner of the world. Microsoft, when they were starting out, wanted to put a PC on every desk, and we could have impact DAOs augmenting every income, which creates a systemic incentive to fund public goods to work on the commons in everyday communities. And so I'm really excited about this world, and I'm just feel so happy that we met at ETH Denver and that we're working on this together. And we published a book together, self-published a book, but I think it still counts. Um, Anything I didn't ask you that you want to say, Ali?
No, I think we covered almost all of it. Yeah, I would say it's like, yeah, for me, I feel like more personally, this is where all my curiosities, passions, and like drives converge towards like involving every aspect of life and society into this world. And just like I would say, if you're curious about the Impact DAO world, just like engage, as Kevin said, in conversations with people building and working in this space. And it's not only gonna be like super interesting and super engaging concepts, ideas, work, and different things that people are building, but also it's gonna be super super nourishing and like conversations that you feel excited and like very energetic after having. So in a sense, like similar to how you were mentioning, how do we get everyone to kind of like gain and be rewarded to creating positive impact in the world, it is also much more like at a personal level, much more engaging, nurturing, thriving to work on these things and give your energy and time towards like positive things in the world, and also like get rewarded at an energetic level, not as much as like the monetary financial aspect of things. So yeah, just like encourage you to engage in conversations and start building in this space. And if you ever need any help, just or ideas or brainstorming or things like that, all this like this ecosystem is so 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 much collaborative and wants to engage ideas, give you tools, give you, oh, this is what we learned, this is how we did it. I see that happen all the time. Even meetings of like three impact DAOs. We're actually like this in Amsterdam. Different impact DAOs like getting into a meeting, setting their goals for the end of the year, and seeing, oh, how can we connect and synergize better and like work, help each other. So it's a very very collaborative environment and ecosystem.
Yeah, totally. Um, Amazing. Well, where can people find you online? Where can people get the ImpactDAO book online and get involved in the movement?
And me, I'm Ale Borda, 21 in Twitter. That's where you can find me mostly. I'm also Ale Borda 21 in Telegram, so that's easy. I don't know why it's 2021, but that's just how I did it. And then in for the book, you can get it both physical and digital copies at the Gitcoin store, but I don't remember the actual. You know the link for it.
Yeah, store.gitcoin.co. We'll have it in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
All right. Well, really fun working with you on this, Ali. I think that we're going to hopefully be building this ecosystem together in the future. And thank you so much for being on the Green Pill podcast.
Of course. Thank you for having me.